Well, hello. Joining me today is Angie Stear. Hi, Angie. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to be with you.
Good. I'm glad you were able to do this with us today. I just want to start by asking where you grew up.
Well, I grew up actually right in the centre of London. We had a flat which was just off the Marylebone Road. And so until I was 11, we lived up there, and London was very familiar to me, Baker Street, Oxford Street. And so that's where I grew up. And then when I was just about 11, we moved to Hawley, just outside Gatwick Airport. And that was interesting because it was a time when Gatwick was almost non-existent, and we saw it grow in my time. And I went to secondary school there and had a really happy time. I loved school, so it wasn't a problem to me. And then at 18, I went to Goldsmiths College to train as a teacher, something I'd always wanted to do, so it was sort of in my blood. And I had a wonderful time there. And it was there that I met Mike during my first term. I was part of the Christian Union, and there were a number of us, and that's where I met him. And so I was up in London. After I'd finished training, I got married, and we lived in Blackheath for a while. And then we went to Oxford, where he trained to be a clergyman. And then we lived in Streatham, and we went to Ramsgate and Jersey, and then we ended up in Dorset. And we've lived in Dorset longer than we've lived anywhere.
So a lot of moves, a lot of changes, a big contrast between London and Dorset.
Yes.
We're very glad that you did move to Dorset.
Oh,
so that's great. So how did you come to know the Lord?
Well, I was brought up in a Christian home, and my father, or both of them, were very involved, but my father was the treasurer at the church, and it was a very evangelical church, and we had morning service, and then we had Sunday school in the afternoon. And I had two lovely Sunday school teachers who I always remember. And in fact, one of them used to come and spend Boxing Day with us when we lived in Streatham. By then she was quite elderly, but she loved it and loved seeing the girls then. And so I grew up in that situation. I can clearly remember on a Sunday night, my dad used to sit me on his lap while my mother went to church. And then we had a big blue Bible, and one page was a picture and the other was the story, and he would sit and read that to me, and I can remember it. My only sadness is I can't find the book now. With all our moves, I can't find it, but it was a very memorable time. And then in the '63 there was a Tom Rees rally up in London, and it went on for several Saturday nights, and we used to go. He used to take us. We went as a family. And it was then in March '63 that that one night I decided that was the time to actually make a clear profession of faith as an older teenager. So I was about 15. So that was really, but I had been given that background right through my life. And but I think it's important in a Christian home that the youngsters make that step for themselves. And I think that became clearer to us when we had our girls. They don't want to be little mimics. They want to know that for themselves. And so that's really what happened with me, which gave me a tremendous grounding for when I went to college. Because when you go to college, as one of our daughters said to us once, there's nobody to say, are you coming to church? You've got to get up and go yourself. And so you need that grounding before you go. And that was really, and while I was at college, it strengthened my faith. And we used to go up to All Souls for teaching. So it was a great time.
Mm. So Angie, I know Mike and you reasonably well. I know that you're both very, very busy people, but in your spare time, what sort of things do you enjoy doing?
Well, we love spending time with the family, and I enjoy knitting and meeting other friends. I'm part of the Aqua group, so we meet. We even have a Zoom now. We're not meeting together to do our exercise. And also, Mike and I love spending time together. We over the years, life has been very busy, and so time's limited. And so we really do enjoy those times. And it's not, I think it's important not to think, oh, I wish he was here now, but to enjoy the moments that you've got, to use those moments. I always remember as a young curate's wife, we had a wives meeting, and the ladies sat round moaning about the fact their husbands weren't in at night. And I thought, I suppose it taught me at that point, you know, every moment is precious, and enjoy the moment you've got rather than just sitting around moping that you haven't got it. And so we do enjoy that. And, you know, it's just been great to have that time together and be involved in ministry together in different ways, because Mike's been very much involved with the church, whereas I had school responsibilities before I retired. But no, when I was working, school took up quite a bit of my time as well, which I really enjoyed, I have to admit.
So we're living in interesting days. I just wondered, how's the current situation been affecting you?
Well, you know, I feel terribly sad for all those who've lost their lives in this time. And it's terrible to see, and I wouldn't want people, especially in the care homes, to be suffering because they haven't got the equipment, the breathing equipment. But for us personally, it hasn't really changed very much, because Mike's still very busy putting services together. We use FaceTime to talk with people, so we've had times with folk that way. But one way it has changed, I suppose, is that we do try and go out for a walk each day together, which we haven't done till now. I mean, we do go for walks, but we try and go every day because we think that's good for us and we enjoy it. But and of course, God's provided us with wonderful weather, so it's been good. Yeah.
So Angie, perhaps you'd like to share with us a piece of scripture to encourage us at this time.
Yes, I found that quite difficult in a way, because there are so many pieces of scripture that come to mind at different times, that they in a sense feed us at different times. And one of the verses that used to be in the past was when I used to drive to school in Preston. I used to come along and look up at the hills, and it always brought back Psalm 131, you know, I lift up my eyes unto the hills, where does my help come from? And that was very precious, really, in that time when I was teaching. So that was very special then. But more recently, I suppose one of the verses that's come quite a bit is Psalm 125, where it says, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people, both now and evermore. And I read that, and it's strange because several times when I've opened the Bible, it's happened to come up at that verse again. But the verse I was really going to use was actually Matthew 28:20. Surely I'm always with you, even unto the end of the age, which actually ties in really with the Psalm 125. So I think that is something that, you know, is very precious to us, that whatever's happening, God is with us. And we all have bad times and good times. And it's very important to remember that whatever, God is with us.
Angie, thank you. It's been great to hear a little bit of your story. So thank you so much for your time today.
That's been a pleasure.